Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Diane. Today I am bringing you another diary entry. In this diary entry, I will be reading books from authors that are new to me. So I've already finished the first book for this theme. This particular book I found while I was browsing Barnes & Noble. In a previous diary entry, I talked about how I was really having trouble with the books that I've been reading lately because they're just not hitting like I thought they would. And I think for the most part, a lot of the books that I've been reading have been things that I've heard about a lot on BookTube from videos that I've been watching and just hearing people talk about things. And so I decided to take a browse at the Barnes & Noble when we were there for the Monica Manga Club meeting and just look around and see if any book on the shelf caught my eye, particularly ones that I haven't heard anybody talk about. And this one jumped out at me. So this one is called Snowglobe, and it's by Soyoung Park. And it's the first book in a duology. And in this one, the world that we're in has constant winter. And we're following a girl who's living with her family in these harsh environments. She has a twin brother. They're taking care of their grandma, and their mom kind of is the breadwinner of the family. And they have TV shows that they like to watch, and mostly the TV shows is from a community that's called Snowglobe. And Snowglobe, you can think of it like a temperature controlled dome, kind of like if you've seen the Hunger Games Catching Fire movie, when they're doing the quarter quell, and it's kind of like a dome that has like LED kind of pictures thrown on the screens and stuff. Or if you've seen the TV show Paradise, the environment that kind of Paradise is, where it's, temperature controlled and the sky and stuff is LED. It's kind of like that, but think of it as a large scale, something that can inhabit an entire city. So the people that live in this temperature controlled environment are very lucky because they not only don't have to deal with the harsh environments of the constant winter, but they can aspire to have fame and fortune, because almost everybody that lives in Snowglobe is an actor or a director or something like that. So everybody kind of puts on these TV shows to entertain the people who are living outside of the globe. And it's kind of a competition a little bit, because the viewer ratings and stuff do matter for how long you're going to be able to stay inside Snowglobe. And so there's a lot of competition, and there's a lot of pressure on not only the actors, but the kind of directorial team, production team for the shows that are being aired. And so our main character that we're following, she really enjoys this show called Go Around, and it follows a teenage girl inside the globe named Go Heri. And one day she's approached by a producer from inside Snowglobe and basically tells her that they want to recruit her to replace Go Heri because something has happened to her. And so at first our main character is just kind of taken aback because she's a big fan of this actress, and then she starts thinking back about how much, she always thought that maybe they might be related because they do look pretty similarly. Lots of people in her life, as she's grown up, have made that same comment. And so she ultimately decides to go ahead and take the producer up on her offer. And when she's inside the Snowglobe, she uncovers a few different things. So basically, this is kind of a dystopian sci-fi kind of story with a mysterious element. I really enjoyed this one. It was really entertaining. I actually did read a digital copy because for whatever reason, my library had an audiobook copy, but it was in Italian. And so it's not something that I would have been able to understand. But this is translated from Korean. And so there are mainly Korean characters in the story. There are a couple that are not. But for the most part, the cast is Korean. And I do feel like as I was reading it, it kind of felt like it could have been a Korean drama. I think that's what lent the ease of getting through the story to my experience, because it was interesting. It had a lot that captured my interest within the story. There were some things that happened that weren't explained by the end of this installment. But since there's another installment, I'm hoping that I'll get the answers to some of the things that I still have questions on in the next one. I typically don't have great track success with dystopians, but that usually doesn't apply to the first book in the series. With dystopians, historically, I have really enjoyed the first book, but it's the ending book where I always have my issues. It was that way for me with the Hunger Games, with Divergent, with the Maze Runner series. And so I'm hoping that my experience with this series or duology is not going to be the same. I do feel like this isn't as heavy in the dystopian as much as the more kind of sci-fi type of feeling that I got, especially towards the latter half, I would say, of the first book. So we'll see how that goes in the next one. I am really interested to continue with this series. But unfortunately, because this is a new to me author reading vlog, and I've already read from this author in this reading vlog, I won't be able to read the next installment for this particular vlog. But I do think that I will be getting to it sooner rather than later. And so I'm very excited to see how that story concludes. I ended up giving this one 4 stars, and I'm really looking forward to reading the next one. So that's pretty much all of the update I have for you today. So I will chat with you later. Hi everyone, so it's been a little bit since I have updated this vlog. Unfortunately, that also means that I finished a few books since I talked to you last, which was unintentional, but I got a cold on top of allergies, and I just was not having a really good time, and my voice sounded like a car engine. And so it was better if I didn't film for you my thoughts on the books that I had finished, because it was just not a good time. Plus, I was coughing and sneezing a lot. And so, yeah, I do still have a little bit of a cough. So if you see some weird cuts, that's what's happening. But I am on the mend. Just a little bit of a cough left. My voice does sound a little bit strange still to me, but I feel tons better. So I did finish 3 books since I talked to you last, and that's pretty much gonna finish out this vlog. So the first book that I finished right before I got really sick was an academic affair. This one is by Jodi McAlister. This is the first book in the Love Notes series, and it is basically an academic rivals to lovers with a marriage of convenience thrown in. So we have our 2 characters, and they have basically been rivals from their undergrad years through their graduate programs. And they end up like meeting each other throughout their lives. And every time they try to call a truce, something happens and they end up being rivals again. And this opportunity comes up for a really great job. The job is especially favorable to our male character because his sister lives in the area, and she's going through a really rough time, and so he kind of wants to be there for her. They both end up going up for the job, and only one of them gets it. But the contract for the job offers a partner hire. And so that's where the kind of marriage of convenience ensues. So they both end up going to the area of the new job, and we kind of follow them through this kind of ruse that they're having with the school and what their like programs are like, and dealing with some family drama and things like that. And so I had gotten this hold released to me from the library, and I really enjoyed it. I heard about this one from Rescues and Reads, and I believe my friend Lee from Dark Roots Creations also read this one. I just really connected with it at the beginning part, where it kind of takes you through all of the rivalry points that they had up until the point where we kind of meet them together again. And I kind of felt like this was a much more modern kind of Anne Shirley and Gilbert Blythe between the characters. Some of the scenes really reminded me of watching my favorite rendition of that series, which is the Sullivan Entertainment version, of how they would like go at each other in the academic setting and make their, points about their views on certain things, and then with the whole testing issues, and then them going up for the same job and things like that. I found their relationship to be very enjoyable, somewhat predictable for sure, but it was hindered by a lot of family drama. So we have, like I said, the issue where his sister is having a rough go of it, but there's also family drama on the side of our female characters' life. She gets into it with her sister, and there's this whole point of the story where she's just kind of trying to make up with her sister after something happens, and it just kind of got mentioned a little bit too much, I guess, for me in the story. I am not a big fan of reading family drama, and I think if that whole part with the sister had not been so prominent in the story, this would have been so much of a better story for me, because I can handle a little bit, and I did really enjoy his family, and spending time with his sister and her kids, and even his brother. The father comes in and has a part too, which I didn't enjoy because the father is not an enjoyable character. But I much enjoyed that, like, family drama. But her family drama I really didn't enjoy. And both family dramas together just meant a lot of family drama for the story. And so I did really enjoy, like, the growth of their relationship, seeing how, you know, they went from just fighting each other in class and meeting each other at different points of their career and all of these things that kind of just brings them together. I really enjoyed watching that. I enjoyed watching them from the time that they start their marriage through to the time we leave them in the story. I just really enjoyed all of that. The family drama, though, got me a lot. So I did end up giving this one 4 stars. I didn't realize that this was the first book in a series when I picked it up. I fully thought that it was a standalone. But I do know who the next book is going to focus on, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how that story plays out. And so I'll definitely be continuing on with this series, and I'm looking forward to reconnecting with our characters when that happens. So really enjoyable. And then I followed that up with a kind of review copy. So an author had reached out to me via email asking me if I'd be interested in reviewing their cozy mystery. And as a lover of cozy mysteries, and one that hasn't actually picked up a cozy mystery in a while, I went ahead and read her book. And so that book was called Murder at the Summer Cheese Festival. This is the first book in the Silver Springs mystery series by Jodi Morgan. So this one follows a woman who has moved to a new area, is now the cafe manager in this town called Silver Springs, and the town is getting ready for their annual cheese festival. And her cafe had a reviewer, a food reviewer, come in a few years ago, I believe, and he wrote the nastiest review. And it really brought down the reputation of the cafe. Well, this guy doesn't have the best reputation anyway. He is one of those people that, you know, is really prominent. And so when he wrote this nasty review, even though things could be said about, you know, some of the things that he said maybe not being true, you know, people listened, and so it really hurt the business. And so our female character here is just like getting to grips with her new job and, you know, gearing up for this festival for the first time, when in walks the same reviewer from before. She had not had experience with him the first time, obviously, and it just sets everybody else in the cafe and really the town on edge with him being there for the cheese festival. Well, guess who ends up dead? So she ends up being the one finding his body, and that kind of leads her into investigating a little bit into his murder and who might have been the culprit, because of course fingers immediately point to her boss, being that she had been basically raked over the coals the last time the guy was in town. And so, along with her friends from a crafting club that she has joined recently, they start putting together a little like case file, if you will, of who could possibly have committed the crime. This was a really enjoyable cozy mystery. Like I said, I haven't read one in a while, so it was really nice to get back into the cozy mystery genre. It had a kind of feeling of like the Real Murders Club from the Aurora Teagarden series that Charlaine Harris writes, because you have like this group of people for getting together for like a hobby type thing. And several of the people from that club kind of help out with the investigation and do their own sniffing and things like that. So I found that to be quite enjoyable as well. As for the mystery, I did find the whole thing to be very plausible and believable. But I will say that even though I found this to be an enjoyable read, it wasn't one of those reads, or even mysteries more specifically, where I was really trying to figure out who might have done the murder. Usually in mysteries, that's something that really like gets me going, really connects me to the story and heightens my entertainment value in that read. But for this one, I didn't even like think at any point, okay, who might have done this? Even when we're introduced to different people, I didn't even think, oh, maybe that's kind of suspicious. He might be a culprit. We are kind of dealt a large cast of characters in this series. Because it is the first in a series, you get like every character, I feel like, introduced to you. And so it was kind of a little bit difficult to remember who was who because there's so many people. But also because all of these people are new to me, I really can't tell like who is more suspicious than others and things like that. Though with this being, you know, a cozy mystery and the first person being pointed out as the culprit being our female character's boss, I highly doubted that that was actually the way that we were going in. So I didn't really read through this thinking, okay, who could it have been? Never once in my mind did it even cross me to think about, you know, could it have been this person or could it have been that person? Which is really unusual for me with a mystery. But nonetheless, I still found it to be enjoyable. Now, that being said, I did have a little bit of an issue with the author's writing style. I think it's just the way that she forms her sentences, because I did find myself reading through sentences second or third times because the way that I was reading it just didn't make sense in my head, or the cadence of the sentence as I read it didn't sound right. Our main character also talks to herself a lot, and I found that to be unnecessary. I can see little quips here and there, but she talks to herself quite often. And so even though I enjoyed the story, there were definitely things that bothered me a little bit as far as the way the sentences were structured and all of the little quips and the frequency of it. But it was an enjoyable read. I found it to be entertaining. I learned a little bit about different cheeses and how it's made. And it also comes with a few recipes as well. So all in all, I did find this to be an enjoyable read. I gave it 3 stars. And it does give you a little bit as far as the beginning of the next installment in this series. And that one's going to revolve around an apple festival, I believe. It has something to do with apples. And I think that's going to be even more enjoyable to me now, especially because I'm more familiar with our cast of characters now. And I definitely enjoy apples. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in the next installment. So thank you to the author for providing me with a copy of her book in exchange for an honest review. As always, this has had no effect on my thoughts on this book at all. So after that, I did get another library hold released to me, and that was Storybook Ending by Moira McDonald. So I had heard about this one on Just Be Weird's channel, and I thought it sounded really interesting, but it's a very slow book. So basically we start off and our remote worker fancies our bookstore clerk. She puts a note in some books that she drops off because they do secondhand sales. And she knows that he's the one that checks the books and things to make sure that there aren't things left behind and that they're in good condition to sell and things like that. And so she kind of leaves him a letter of admiration. Well, he doesn't look at the books very well and therefore misses her note, puts the book on the shelf, and it gets bought by our widow character. And she finds the note, thinking that the store clerk had put it in there for her. So we basically follow this big misunderstanding. We get different chapters from the different characters, and I'll just tell you that I did end up DNFing this one at 40%. So I, at that point, did not really feel like this was a romance novel. I do feel like it had a more contemporary fiction feel. The misunderstanding was a little bit hilarious in, I would say, our widow character's point of view. We do get several points of view. We not only get our remote worker, we get the point of view of our bookstore clerk, we get the widow character, we get a co-worker of the bookstore character. And on top of all of the things that are happening, there's also this film that's being produced that wants to use their bookstore as their filming spot. And so there's just a lot of things going on. But even with all of that, it didn't entice me to want to finish this book. So I didn't really enjoy our remote worker. And that's the kind of point of view that we start off with first. She's kind of talking about how she's an introvert and how, her in-office job turned into a work-from-home job because of, things that were going on in the world, and just never became a in-office job again. And she's kind of complaining about the fact that, because of that, she doesn't have the opportunity to talk to people and meet people and things like that. And as an introvert myself, I couldn't understand her point of view because I much prefer that I work from home. I much prefer not having to chit chat with my coworkers and get interrupted all the time by, people coming to socialize, which I don't mind it every now and then, but it's not something that I want to do on a regular basis. So I couldn't really get on page with that character, and she just seemed to complain a lot, which I also didn't enjoy. And then we have our bookstore clerk, and he is like a wet noodle. I didn't enjoy him at all. I didn't see what these two women would even find good about him, besides it says that he's handsome, which I don't know. His personality just didn't scream, oh my gosh, he's a catch to me. And he even talks about the fact that, his good looks, blah, blah, blah. And so he's very aware that people see him as good looking. And I just didn't enjoy that. And there's this constant quip about, oh, his name is Wesley. And he, has the same name as the character from The Princess Bride. And he hates how people reference that all the time. And it got old real fast. I think the only character I really enjoyed the point of view from was the widow character. And I think if this book was just from her point of view and, coming across this letter and having that little misunderstanding, it would have hit different for me. I much enjoyed the widow character's point of view and how she, finds the letter and starts talking to her friends, wondering if she's even ready to get back out into the world after losing her husband, and all of the things that go through her mind in regards to that and possibly dating again. And I think if this had just pared down to her point of view, this would have been such a much better read for me. But there was just too many things going on. I didn't really enjoy most of the characters, and the story was just so slow. And so I decided at 40% to stop reading. And truthfully, I haven't even thought about the book since. And so, unfortunately, that's where we're going to leave this diary entry as far as my reading of new authors for this reading vlog. For the most part, I enjoyed the books that I read here. I enjoyed exploring some new authors. I unintentionally started 3 new series, but that's okay. That's okay. And really, it's not unexpected of me as someone who really enjoys reading series. It was just an unintentional thing that had happened due to circumstances. And so, yeah, I really am glad that I explored some new authors, and I'm looking forward to continuing with the series that I have checked out in this video. And so hopefully I will do that sooner rather than later. But that's going to be it for me for now as far as reading goes. As always, we are going to end this video with some mystery unboxings. But before we get to the usual mystery unboxings, Mother's Day did pass a bit ago, and my daughter had bought me some blind boxes. I did open them already, and so I wanted to share with you what she had gotten me, because they do correspond with some blind boxes that I have opened in previous videos. Okay, so she got me all the things that are in this bag from Miniso. So the first thing that I opened was this Mofu-san blind box. And so there's some ocean creatures in here, like a shark and a clownfish, a polar bear, an octopus, and a penguin. And so the one I ended up getting was the octopus. So really, really cute. I really kind of want to see if I can get the shark though, or even the polar bear, because if you didn't know, I am a big fan of white bears in plushes. And so, yeah, so this is what I got from that first blind box. The second blind box she got me was another Mickey head in the clouds. You know that I have been opening these boxes. You can see some of them here. And then I have 2 more that are up there. But I am just missing one of the regular ones and the secret from this collection. And so she found another one for me, and the one that I got was the one that I was missing. So this is the last one for the collection that is not the secret. And it's just another one of my favorite colors. This one is more teal-y than the more turquoisey one right here. Really, really like this one. This one is called Leisure Rainbow. And so he's got the little rainbow in the ear here. And then it also came, as usual, with the air freshener and the little card. So really, really excited that I have a full set of these Mickey head in the cloud figures now, and really glad to have this one as well, because of all of the ones that are in this collection, I would say this one and the other 3 that you see behind me are the ones that I really, really wanted. So now I'm only missing the secret. We'll see if I find any more of these boxes, because I would like to have the secret, but it's not really necessary for me to have the secret. But it's kind of fun to chase that secret, isn't it? And so that was the second thing she got me, And then the last thing in this bag was another one of these Yeti plush blind boxes from Baby 3. I opened 3 of these earlier this year. I can't even remember. But they're these little Yeti characters, and then there's 3 kind of secret ones. And so the one I got in here was this one. So this is the one that matches the one in the front of the box, which is one that I really, really wanted because it does have those tealy accents, right? And it's super cute. And so this one also has the googly eyes that you can move, but very, very adorable. And so that is the one that I have. This one is called Snow Veil Spirit. So that is this one, Snow Veil Spirit. Really, really cute. I do enjoy the Baby 3 characters, especially with how different the facial features can be and the eyes and all of that. So really, really happy to have that one. I don't know if I'm going to get any more of these. I would really, really like to have the Glacier Phantom one. Obviously, my colors. But these are really cute too, and I don't know if we're going to be able to find any more of these either. But really, really happy with all of the things that she got for me. So I definitely wanted to share those with you. So let's go ahead and open the usual mystery packs for our diary entry. Okay, let's start off with my yarn advent calendar. So this is the Charlie Brown Christmas yarn advent calendar from Stitchin' with Yarn. This one is day 11, and the colorway is called Sally's Letter to Santa. So let's see what we've got in here. Ooh. So this kind of reminds me of Flounder from The Little Mermaid. It's very, very bright. And I think there were a couple of other ones that I had said before kind of reminded me of The Little Mermaid. This one definitely, immediately when I pulled it out of the bag, screamed Flounder to me. But very, very cute. Very bright and cheerful. Definitely not Christmassy, but I still really, really am happy with this. So I think that's going to be a really, really nice pop of color. So that is my yarn advent calendar from Stitchin' with Yarn. And then we have the Nido Advent. So let's see what we've got in here for our day 11. Day 11 is down here. It's a bigger one. Oops, kind of broke that there. That is Dial It Back. So what is, oh, it's a telephone. So we've got the telephone and the receiver here. It's one of those old-fashioned rotary dial telephones. Very, very hard kind of rubbery texture, but I presume that this is stretchy. Yes. I don't want to stretch it too much because it probably will break. This part is also very stretchy. So my rotary telephone, not the stress ball that I was hoping for, but still very cute. So that's what we've got for the Nido Advent. And that's pretty much all I have for you today. So let me know down in the comments below if you've read any of the books that I talked about today and what you thought of them, or if you have any recommendations for new authors to me. I'm always looking to explore some new authors. I don't do it as often as I should, though, because I am such a series reader, and I should really be focusing on the series that I have. Plus, I have a lot of authors that I really enjoy as well. And so I don't really check out new authors very often, I feel like, but I really should. So if you have some of your favorite authors that you'd like to share with me, let me know them down in the comments below. And if nothing else, and you'd just like to let me know that you were here, if you could leave me a cheese emoji for the cozy mystery that I read in this video, it would be greatly appreciated and really help me out, and that will do it for me today. So I hope you're all doing great. I hope you're all safe and healthy, and until next time, take care and smile always. Bye.